Hi, Matt. Welcome to the show.
Hey Mike, how are you? It's
I'm
been a
doing
while.
well. I know, been a while, been talking to you. And now let me introduce for everybody that doesn't know Matt, okay? Now, Matt started Airbnb back in 2015. Within 8 years that being super host, and he maintained five-star review every single listing. And now he a seven-figure earner, and he served 4,000 guests with 11 properties. And that's crazy. Now, what is unique about Matt is he helped my Airbnb optimize. And I just launched my studio last month in June. And within the same day, they just booked 4 weeks straight. I able to earn $3,000 because of Matt. Thank you so much.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the invite to your show. One just little point of clarification. So right now I have five listings. At my height, I had 11. So, but yeah, the rest is all true. 4,000 guests, Superhost the whole time. And it's been a ride. A lot of people ask me, they're like, "What's your craziest Airbnb story?" And I'm like, "Oh, you have to buy me a drink for that." And then I have to pick one because I've had a couple without question.
Got it, got it. Matt, so I want to ask you why Airbnb?
So Airbnb really came out of necessity. I had quit my job working in the corporate, a big company, well, a medium-sized company, and I hated my boss. I couldn't stand going to work and dealing with all of those corporate politics and whatnot. And I didn't have a new job to go to, so I needed money. That's the plain and simple of it. I needed money. I had a friend who was doing Airbnb and he was making lots of money and basically doing very little. So I thought to myself, well, my place is way nicer than his and I'm in a better location than he is. So I gave it a try. And then honestly, best choice I ever made. I've never once looked back. Um, yeah, it's been one of the most fulfilling careers I've ever had.
That's wonderful, Matt. Appreciate it. So tell me, before Airbnb, what is your background before?
So I have a bit of a varied background. Immediately before Airbnb, I spent 10 years as a corporate marketer, mainly focused on retail marketing, a little bit of B2B marketing. And prior to that, I was a financial analyst and I held a CPA designation for a short time. And prior to that, I even worked in like a junior early stage venture capital fund. So I've been all over. I was a banker as well. And oddly enough, Airbnb seems to be the longest quote unquote job that I have ever held. Prior to that, the longest I had ever been was 3 years. And so here we are 8 years later.
Well, I think your experience in the past is bring it to Airbnb because Airbnb needs marketing. It also need money to fund all the properties, and so it served you well, actually.
Yeah, it certainly has helped. Every once in a while, I hear myself or I find myself thinking like, "Oh, this is something I learned in my MBA," or "This financial reporting would work well for Airbnb." And yeah, of course, the marketing, understanding what guests want, the notion or the strategy to actually target specific guests on Airbnb and how much more profitable that can be. In fact, in my programs, I'm often heard saying, if you try to say it all, you wind up saying nothing at all. And so that is a key strategy that we look at in the programs that I teach is figuring out who your ideal guest is and then how do we market directly to them.
Yeah, basically, I follow Matt method for my Airbnb and it's been working really well. So my studio, I target couple and also small size family, and pretty much they come right through because of Matt target marketing. Now, so how long it take you to start your first properties?
So to get the first one actually wasn't very long at all because I ended up doing Airbnb in the home that I was living in. Because remember, way back when I was unemployed, I didn't know anything about Airbnb or real estate, and I just started doing it in the house that I lived in. And it was almost like an epiphany moment. I woke up one morning and I realized, because I was looking for another corporate marketing job, and I realized, like, I'm really excited to host guests later today. And what I had to do, because I was living in the place that I was Airbnbing, I had to clean up my place, put my personal items away, get it guest ready. And like I never liked cleaning before Airbnb, but I did love hosting. And so the first one came together pretty quickly. After that, the next few, I took a big giant leap and I brought two on at the same time. That took a little longer. Each Airbnb typically takes between, I mean, if you're following the right strategy and you've got all of the right checklists and tools and stuff that we do in our courses, then you can be up and running in 5 to 7 days. Without it, one of them took 2.5 weeks, the other one took like a month. So definitely following someone who's already been there and walked that path before you do can make a huge difference.
First start my Airbnb, it took me a month. Just that decoring, put all the place stuff in place, buy everything, the supply.
Stuff you
Oh,
don't even think of that you need that shows
yeah,
up after the fact. Yeah. And then this last one, how long did it take you, Mike?
easy. It just take me like 1 week.
Because you had it all. You had our checklist, and you
Yeah,
had
I got all the
and
checklists.
you'd
I got everything.
experienced.
Yeah, the experience. I know what the guests need, and just plug and chug.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
For your first Airbnb, do you rent your room or just a whole house?
I did the whole house. So I would move out and either stay with friends or family, or I would be traveling.
Okay.
In fact, the first guests were here while I was traveling,
Okay.
and then from there just grew and grew and grew.
Well, Airbnb is wonderful because it's help. I just went to Europe 1 month ago,
Mhm.
and for the whole month, I don't even care.
Yeah. Well, your job is remote, and now that you have things set up based on
Yeah,
what we
yeah,
taught and what you learned, you don't have to be right on site all the time, do you?
yeah. I don't need to be on the site all the time. I have somebody to clean, and I have somebody also check the cleaners to make sure like no hair in the house.
That's never a problem for me.
I able to go to extreme that I ask my cleaner to wear those those kitchen that you
Hair
have
nets? Oh,
in my
wow.
hands.
I don't know how I feel about that, but definitely an idea for sure.
I mean, I put it there. I was like, hey, look, I see a lot of hair. Please put it on, please. I mean,
Well, that's the thing, Mike. You're obsessed with the guest experience, which is exactly what it takes to make an amazing Airbnb host. And you are definitely one.
I have to. I mean, the guest experience from check-in, the first thing that I would love to hear like, wow, amazing! You have welcome gift. You have all this stuff. I was like, thank you.
It's fun. It's so fun and so rewarding when you get it nailed. And when you can figure out how to get it nailed without spending hours and hours and hours on your business. And I think you're like a perfect example of how when you get the system set up, when you understand the marketing, and you get who your guests are, that becomes it. It's almost passive income, isn't it?
Yes, it's almost passive income. I don't think you have to be worried too much because you have the system already. So let's say if you have like something's wrong, you need to fix like AC. I have an AC guy just go right away. And even in the weekend, they also willing to go because that's everything happens in the weekend, especially at night.
Yeah, the middle of the night. Although look, my systems are pretty solid. I can't remember the last time I've been woken up in the middle of the night. It's been years that I have not been woken up in the middle of the night.
Matt, what is your challenge when you first start out?
My challenge, this one's easy because I was a pretty big F-bomb, was pricing. So the way I priced my listing way back when, 8 years ago, I looked at what hotels were charging. I looked around my house and I was like, my place is way better than a hotel. And I set a price and I left it. And you know from my pricing workshop that is wrong, wrong, wrong on so many accounts. The same price, never changing it, setting it off of hotels, wrong. And then, so after a few weeks of vacancy and a few months of lower than expected, I went crazy trying to figure out what do you do? How do you price properly on Airbnb? And when I cracked that code, Mike, like things just gangbusters. I'd never made so much money. It was like it was amazing. And when I look back on that, I think, wow, that was such a good decision.
Yes, I know. It's make a good decision with the properties that I earn right now from June to July. No, from this year to June, 100K.
Wow. Wow. I should start doing revenue share with my students.
I mean, it's not bragging of it like that, but the thing is like it's motivate you to become a super host. I mean, what a wonderful gift that you can share your space to somebody else, come to your home and then live there and experience like the unique way. Every house unique. So
Oh yeah, yeah. And the Airbnb adage is live like a local. And people, quite frankly, are getting sick of hotels. They're smaller spaces, there's no kitchen, so if you want to make breakfast or even cook meals, although most of my guests don't really cook meals because there's so many amazing restaurants around the corner, but breakfast is a nice thing, you know. Do you really, you're on vacation, do you want to spend an hour and a half eating breakfast? Nah, just grab a bagel, a coffee out the door and start exploring. So for sure, yeah. And rates, Mike, rates this year are gangbusters. They're better than before the pandemic. I This whole summer has blown me away. I'm like, what? We're getting booked at that? That's insane.
I think 2022 is really low month, low year, but 2023 is getting way better. So I just can't wait 2024 gonna be live, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. 2022, depending on the market you were in, yeah, there was some corrections happening. It was a much more dominant return to travel after the pandemic, and people weren't sure what they wanted, where they were going. There was a lot of pent-up international demand. But now things are becoming expensive, which is kind of a good thing for us. But it is increasing domestic travel spend, um, which is fantastic. And there's still international travelers. There's still tons, like flights. I have many friends who work in the airline industry, and the planes are all full. So if you aren't getting booked this summer season, it's not because the market is slow. It's because there's something else wrong.
Yeah, there's probably something wrong because I get booked up left and right. And you were right when I go to Europe, even it's not summer yet. Oh my God, it's like I have to wait in line. All the airline. And I have to be early too.
Yeah, I did a bunch of travel this past year too, because I was like many of our guests and had some pent up travel demand, or needs, wants, whatever you call them. And yeah, every plane I was on was pretty full. The airports were jammed. Um, and I had some extended family here visiting in Toronto, and we went to attractions, did the touristy thing, and it's all full. People are It's back to normal.
I think so. I don't know. People say it's like what's it called? Market is down. We are in recession time. I mean, we still have a recession, but it's not hit every single part of of the industry, you know.
No, and a recession typically doesn't hit everybody. And what we're going to see this year, based on what all these really smart economists are telling us, is this recession is going to be very different than the ones that we've had in the past. See, during the pandemic, the sort of the middle class, the upper middle class, and the upper class, they got to save billions, hundreds of billions of dollars that they weren't spending prior to that. The rich got richer, And so what we're seeing is that in the kind of the higher part of the market, the recession is not really going to be felt the same way that it's going to be at the lower end of the market. And if we look at who our typical travelers are, they're people who can afford to travel, who can afford to fly, who can afford to drive. Um, and so while we may start to see economic slowdown, so the definition for a recession is 2 quarters of slow or negative growth. While we may see that, we haven't seen it yet, by the way. So by technical terms, we are not in a recession. But we will see those at the in the marginal levels, at the lower levels economically, um, they're going to be struggling more than the people who had savings, the more professional people. And while I hate talking about socioeconomic things in that light of the haves and the have-nots, for the context of our business, we need to be focused on our guests, meeting their needs, and not running and burying our head in the sand because we're like, oh, it's going to be a recession. People aren't traveling. Like, stop reading the news because what the news is not telling you is about all of the people who are still employed, who got raises, who are earning more because prices are up, and corporate profits, by the way, are way up as well. Those are our guests and they're still traveling, and our job is to provide them with the best damn experience we can and earn the highest, fairest price that we can.
Well say, man. Loving it.
Thank you, thank you. I was gonna end that with end rant, but because I get this question a lot, and based on my educational background and running my businesses, I have to know about this stuff, and I think it's probably one of the biggest misconceptions out there for Airbnb hosts. Are there troubled times ahead for some people in our economy? Yes. Do we need to take care of them? Yes. Can we do that by earning top dollar in our own businesses and stepping up and starting an Airbnb or continuing to run our Airbnb? Yes, we can. And we can give back in other ways to help those people in our economy. And by the way, we do, because a lot of our cleaners and our maintenance staff are the ones who are going to be hit the hardest from this recession.
Recession, yes.
Reception, that's for damn sure. Nobody is receiving this recession.
Airbnb reception.
The Airbnb reception.
So, Matt, you now teaching 100 Airbnb hosts. What's the most common mistake that the most Airbnb hosts made?
So yeah, you're right. I've taught north of 700 students through my various programs, and the biggest mistake that I see, there's a couple, but the biggest one is not really understanding what drives bookings on Airbnb. How do you get top visibility on the site? So that's the biggest thing is hosts don't understand that. The second biggest thing is pricing and balancing your price between sort of three factors: the market demand, your occupancy, um, and the prevailing price of the listings around you, and how to position yourself in there. And then the third thing I think would be honestly a lack of systems and automations. So that, like, when I was running 11 listings, I might have spent 30 minutes a day on them, maybe on average. I mean, some days were certainly a couple hours, other days were absolutely nothing. And so to get to that point where it is almost passive income, it's about the systems, it's about your price, and it's about being visible on Airbnb and maintaining that visibility, that high search ranking, so that when a guest goes to Airbnb, they see your listing on the first page. So it's one of the first ones they see. And so those are really the three big areas that hosts are challenged with. And when they don't hit at least pricing and visibility, they often kind of just start to what's the word I'm looking for? They start to disengage. And then perhaps they're hearing this economic news, and then we're losing so many great hosts.
Many people that I've been talked to for the Airbnb, they start to convert back to long-term rental. And because of that, because of they say recession, they need to get the cash flow in. That's why they're converting back. So I think it's for me, it's just Airbnb is still good.
Oh yeah, I mean, there is one caveat there, of course, Mike, and that is that not every location makes a great Airbnb. I teach this stuff in my programs about making sure that you are in a good location. And once you're in that good location, if you are following a system, if you are making sure that you are visible, your price is right, then you can make tons of money. Um, there's no question. I look for, when I'm evaluating properties, I look to target at least double the long-term rent, if not triple the long-term rent, depending on the market. And I believe that's absolutely and universally true. That's numbers you should be taking to the bank.
I mean, you should profit from the property that you have because when you have an attractive place, let's say use my example. I have a Sequoia Park, National Park, that the guests come in every single year, international, all over the world. They come in the place, so that's an attraction. Now the downside is that the park shut down.
Mike, what did your guests do at the park that they had to shut it
I
down?
have no idea. They keep shutting down because they saying like because of the flood, maybe it's because of the fire season. Who knows? But everything's good now. Now because it's hot, a lot of bear coming out, lots of them. So the main we have to inform the guests to know too when the bear coming.
Well, and we talked about that in the program that I taught you in. We talked about anticipating guests' needs that they don't even know they have. And so I bet you provide them with bear spray, or you give them leave a pamphlet what to do if a bear approaches. Like I bet you do all those things.
I have everything's in place, so the guest is all taken care of. There's no surprise. That's the least thing you want is a guest surprise. When we talk about the economy, so what do you think about the future of the short-term rental market?
I think the future for Airbnbs is very, very um, positive, very optimistic. I think that there still is tons of opportunity out there, so we have a bright future. What the pandemic did is it gave Airbnb hosts the best gift we could have ever asked for. And I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me on that, so hear me out. No one wanted to go to a hotel during the pandemic. They wanted to travel, but they didn't want to be squished in with other travelers from around the world because that was what we were not supposed to do. We needed to social distance. There's a word I haven't said in a long time. And boxing into a little elevator to go up to your hotel room that's like right next door to someone else from some other place that you don't know their background was not ideal. And so millions of guests turn to Airbnb because most Airbnbs are standalone. We have a ton of cabins on Airbnb, cottages, remote places, things like that. And what that did is it basically forced a whole bunch of travelers that would have never tried Airbnb before because they were like, ah, I don't want to stay in someone else's house. I don't want all this. I don't, whatever. And they all tried it and they loved it. And so that is going to give us a leg up over the hotels for the next few forever probably because we both know staying in an Airbnb is way more advantageous than a hotel. So I think that's going to be going for us is that we got a whole bunch of new guests who would have never tried us otherwise to go in, try us, and they like us. I think the future of travel, I'm always watching travel trends. I'm a huge aviation geek, and so I watch airline orders for new planes, like how many new planes are being ordered. And the indicators in that field are ridiculous. The biggest order for new planes ever was placed about 3 months ago by Air India. The US carriers are all ordering new planes. Like that whole industry is on fire. And if the airlines are willing to buy a $200 million plane and buy like 20 of them at $40 billion, then I think they know something that we perhaps don't know. And that is that the demand for travel is going to stay high. Now, I want to offer one caveat. So Airbnb has exploded in many places around the world, and particularly in many places in the United States. And some markets are seeing an oversaturation, i.e., there are too many Airbnbs and not enough guests. Um, and that's okay. Over time, we'll see that market balance itself out again. Some hosts will come out. The really good hosts will stay in. And I want the hosts who are watching that maybe are operating in an oversaturated market, I want them to know that you can still make money there. It's all about visibility, pricing, and automation. And if you get that right, because there are still guests traveling to these highly saturated markets, when you get that right, you can have a highly booked calendar with good occupancy. It's just a matter of nailing those three things.
Hmm. And also get the review. I mean, the review always.
Well, the reviews will fall if you get those three things right. You don't have to worry about reviews. I rarely, this is embarrassing for me to admit, I rarely look at my reviews because I know what they're going to be. And when I do look, they are what I expect them to be. Um, it's when you get it nailed, it is truly amazing. And it's not that I'm not paying attention. It's just that I know we're doing a good job and our guests are enjoying their stay. And that's really what I want. Because when they have a great stay, they leave us a great review. That helps with our visibility. Not the whole thing, but certainly helpful. And it makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside that we've got, hundreds of guests this year coming to Toronto and are going to enjoy their stay.
Now let's dive into the employee. How do you start to hire your first cleaners?
So hiring cleaners can be challenging for sure. There are some key traits that I look for. I want someone who is coachable. I want someone who is communicative, and I want someone who knows how to use technology. And you may have noticed that the first thing I said wasn't that they knew how to clean. I can teach them how to clean. In fact, I've taught lots of people how to clean and lots of people how to teach their cleaners how to clean. That part is easier. It's really the communication, the ability to be coached, and their use of technology. Because we
Yeah,
use technology a lot as Airbnb hosts.
yeah. We use system a lot, and also I even print out all the, like Matt teach me, all the print out all the binders. I want my stuff exactly like this pictures. If it's
Yeah,
not, what happened?
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Training your cleaners, you heard me say it when we were working together. Training is not one and done when it comes for cleaners. They are a member of your team. They're one of the most important members of your team. And managing them doesn't have to be hard if you have sort of a standard operating procedure to follow. And you share that with your cleaners and you can manage the performance against those standard procedures. And it gets a lot easier for sure.
We're gonna play a little game. Are you down for that?
A game, there better
Yes.
be a monetary prize at the end.
No. So I'm gonna list name of all the city around the world. You tell me, is that bad or good Airbnb?
Ooh, that one's tough, Mike. I may have to say I don't know to some of them because I
Yes.
don't study all the markets and I don't want to
Okay.
give anybody a false impression here.
Okay.
All
So the
right.
first one is San Diego.
So I haven't studied San Diego directly, but I hear that it is one of the hottest Airbnb markets currently.
Perfect. Vancouver.
Vancouver is tough. So Vancouver has regulations that limit Airbnbs and short-term rentals, and so I would be a little apprehensive with Vancouver.
Rio, Brazil.
Rio, Brazil. I think that is a yes, but I don't know. Um, I've not studied that market too closely, but I believe it's a yes.
Barcelona in Spain.
Um, I don't know anything about Barcelona, I'm afraid. I know it's a popular tourist destination and they're doing well this year, but I don't know any specific Airbnb stuff over there.
Houston.
Houston, Texas is a good spot, although regulations are coming in, so you'll want to do your research on Houston. But yeah, otherwise it's a pretty good spot to work.
Okay, that's all for now,
You don't
man.
have any more? How about Chicago? Chicago's a good spot. They have regulations, but they're Airbnb friendly. What's
How
another
about
good?
the Joshua Tree?
So Joshua Tree, my personal opinion is that is a good example of an oversaturated market. The house prices are very high in Joshua Tree. There are a ton of Airbnbs there, and I don't know how easy it's going to be to get like a solid return on your investment because you pay so high to get in there. And then there's a lot of competition who are pushing rates down. Yes, you can still be fully booked in Joshua Tree if you're following a good system. You've got high visibility on Airbnb, but because the overall market rate is likely a bit lower due to the oversaturation, I don't know how well you can make a go there. Um, Joshua Tree isn't probably on my list at the moment. This is when you're going to tell me my latest Airbnb is in Joshua Tree.
No,
Okay, good.
I hope not. I saw the competition. I was like, no, 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 no,
Yeah, it's
please.
very saturated in Joshua Tree
Yeah.
because Joshua Tree was the spot for a few years and everybody flocked there and they didn't do a lot of their homework and they just willy-nilly evaluated what their potential was for revenue and it didn't quite come to fruition.
Mhm.
I feel
What
bad for
about
those hosts. Yeah.
Washington D.C.?
Washington, D.C., I don't know enough about. So typically, capitals, like government capitals, whether they're state, provincial, federal, are good places because there's a lot of travel in and out. But what I don't know about D.C. is the regulation. So you want to, if the regulation isn't there and it's not oversaturated, then typically these places where there's a lot of business travelers coming in to have meetings with government, it would be a good place, assuming those two other things, regulations and saturation, are not there.
Yeah, because I stay one of the Airbnb there. Is wonderful. It's not far from the White House,
Oh yeah.
and yeah, it's amazing. And I stay two Airbnb there, and it's wonderful. I think it's not that hard regulate that much.
Well, let's build an Airbnb. Let's start an Airbnb right together. We'll do a joint venture in Washington.
Well, I think that's all for now for the show. Thank you for hopping into the show. Thank you so much, Matt. Appreciate to
Thank
share
you,
your
Mike.
knowledge.
I loved working with you. I loved coaching you. I loved training you. You were an inspiration to me and my YouTube channel. So a big thank you to you as well, Mike.
Yes.
And we will definitely stay in touch.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Matt.